Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Tsunami, Kushina and Mabui? Part 3. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time, let's get into the video. 2 weeks after the squad's return from Kurigakure, Naruto, Samui and Mabui were called to the Raikage's office by Kushina. Kushina was not their sensei, so they wondered why they were being summoned by her. Naruto led the girls into the Raikage's office, where he saw his mother and another woman with long blue hair and a heart-shaped face. She held a child in her arms, and she was clearly exhausted from their long trip to Kumo. I set down the barbell he was using to complete a set of bicep curls and looked up at his favorite genin team as they entered. "About time you made it here, Naruto. Sure took you sweet time, eh kid?" Naruto adopted an exaggeratedly offended face and clutched his hand over his heart. "Why, Raikage-sama, I would never delay answering your call. You wound me so." The room giggled at the interaction before Ai's smile fell, and the room fell into a serious mode. Like a switch was flipped, all members of Team 12, Naruto's favorite and requested number, snapped to parade rest and awaited their mission orders. "Alright, Team 12, Lady Shina will be leading you on a mission to the Land of Waves, an island chain off the coast of Hai no Kuni. Evidently, the shipping magnate Gato has forced the island under his thumb by forcibly acquiring a monopoly of their ports and shipping lanes. Tsunami's father is building a bridge to disrupt the monopoly, but Gato has put a hit out on him and his family. Your mission is to protect Tsunami and her family first and foremost. Your secondary mission is the assassination of Gato and his army of thugs. Tsunami states that he has well over 100 thugs under his employ. It is likely that he also has a couple of ninjas too, so keep your eyes up. This is a B, likely to turn A-ranked mission. Do you accept this mission?" Squad 12 all bowed and saluted their Raikage, a gesture they wouldn't normally do, but it was important when in the presence of clients and foreign shinobi. "Hi, Raikage-sama." Tsunami inspected the young shinobi. We won't focus on how her eyes lingered on Naruto for a bit longer than the girls, before she turned to the Raikage. "Raikage Dono, I do not mean to offend, but they look like they are just children. Are you sure that they will be able to handle it?" Shina stepped up to answer that. "Tsunami-san, I assure you they can handle it. In front of you are 3 of the 6 divine bolts of Kumo. They returned less than a month ago from Kurigakure after helping to end the civil war there." Tsunami looked most impressed and hopeful, but the brat in her arms just scoffed at that. "It doesn't matter, I don't even know why we are here. If they fight Gato, they are just going to die." Old Kumo shinobi beeped an eyebrow at the boy but maintained their professionalism. They looked at Tsunami, who suddenly had a weary look fill her eyes. "My apologies, Raikage Dono, please forgive my son, Inari. Gato killed his father in a public execution and made my son watch." She and Inari broke down in tears at the memory. Naruto sympathized with the brat, so he got down on a knee in front of him and raised his chin to look him in the eye. "Look kid, your father was a hero and Gato sounds like a rotten evil bastard. Sorry for cursing, Tsunami-san." He looked apologetically up to Tsunami. "I promise you, Inari, that we will rid Wave of Gato. Some punk businessmen can't stop the might of Kumo." Naruto held his fist up to the kid as fresh tears fell from the brat's eyes. Inari wiped his tears and his snot on his fist before looking at Naruto. After seeing the serious look in Naruto's eyes, the boy knocked fists with Naruto. Naruto stood up and retook his place in the squad after wiping his hand on his pants. Tsunami looked like she had something else to say, but was hesitant to do so. Kushina prompted her. "Tsunami-san, it looks like you may have something to add. Please don't be afraid to share with us. If it is important to completion of our mission, we would like to know. If it raises the difficulty of the mission, we can still rework our payment plan." Tsunami let out a deep breath. "Well, Lady Shina, I know ninja villages don't really like working together, so I thought I should be forthright. My father left at the same time we did to secure a protection detail from Konoha." Kushina and Naruto exchanged looks at this. "Squad 12, this mission will be masks on. No exceptions. Until you know the identity of the Konoha squad, you are to stay masks up at all times. Shina, that goes for you as well." "Hi, Raikage-sama." Shina then stepped forward. "Tsunami-san, it looks like you are exhausted from your long trip. Please rest at our family compound for the night and we will set out tomorrow. We should be able to reach your home in the Land of Waves by tomorrow afternoon." Tsunami looked stunned at the kind offer and then again at hearing they could reach Wave in one day. "I humbly accept your hospitality, but pardon me for asking. How could we possibly reach my homeland in one day?" Naruto answered with his tone full of pride. "Tsunami-san, I have a summon that will allow us to fly to your homeland. So long as you are willing to pay her in fish." Tsunami looked confused but nodded at the answer. I dismissed them from the office and the group led their clients to the Maki compound. Kushina noticed how underfed they looked and wanted to provide a good meal for them. Samui and Mabui stopped by their homes to let their parents know about their new mission before they rejoined the group for the night at the Maki compound. Over dinner, Shina heard how destitute the people of Wave were. She ordered Naruto to prepare some care packages to provide relief to the people while they were on the island. Naruto created 10 clones that began sealing away extra food and medical supplies. Tsunami's eyes were full of tears at the godsends the Kumo shinobi turned out to be. She was determined to pay them back for their kindness in any way she could. Tsunami and Inari took the guest room at the Maki compound and relished in the opportunity of relaxing in a private onsen. Then, they were able to bathe for the first time in their 2-week journey to Kumo, and they then slept on a supremely comfortable bed. The well-rested Tsunami and Inari joined Squad 12 and the Maki family for breakfast the next day. They looked replenished as they ate breakfast, and Ruto could tell that he had almost completely removed the chip off of Inari's shoulder. The kid was actually smiling, which filled Tsunami with tears of gratitude. Shina noticed that Tsunami kept sneaking glances at her Sachi and knew that this was going to be a fun mission, with plenty of opportunities to push her son's buttons. The group packed everything up, and Ruto summoned Virginia. Inari was terrified of the massive eagle until he saw the bird snuggle into Ruto. He marveled at how Naruto controlled the massive bird of prey that was many times his size. Ruto gave Virginia a bucket of fish as a form of payment for the journey and promised her more when they got to Wave. He then helped everyone mount Virginia and get settled in. Kushina held Inari in her lap, and Ruto secured Tsunami in front of him. The older woman blushed heavily as Ruto snaked an arm around her waist and pulled her to him. Mabui and Samui rolled their eyes at how oblivious their boyfriend was to the affections of other women, while Hikari snickered in his mind. "PSH, this is your captain, Ruto Maki, speaking. Alright everyone, we welcome you aboard Air Virginia today. Please keep your hand and feet secured at all times. Friendly reminder to our shinobi passengers to please deactivate all weight seals. Our journey to the land of waves is estimated to take 8 hours due to the greatness of Virginia. Please enjoy your flight on Air Virginia today." Naruto made a show of hooking a fake mic back on his utility belt as the others cackled in laughter. Virginia took off at a relatively slow speed since she had passengers that were not used to flying. That lasted until the happily screaming child challenged her to go faster. The whole group was forced to lean back as the acceleration forced them to do so. Inari wore a massive smile on his face the whole flight home. Tsunami thanked Kami for the millionth time in the past day for her blessings in life. After 7 hours of flying, the group saw Wave Country appear on the horizon. Ruto wanted to get a look at this super bridge that Inari was spouting on and on about, so he had Virginia descend, and the Kumo team looked out over the edge of Virginia's wings to truly appreciate the massive man-made construct that was challenging Mother Nature's greatness. It was a truly impressive feat of human engineering. It was during this flyby that the group heard the sound of metal clashing and other sounds of battle. After a brief discussion, Virginia swooped low and let Shina, Ruto and Samui down, while Mabui stayed with Tsunami and Inari. Virginia then took off to take the clients to the safety of their home. Shina, Ruto and Samui masked up and approached the edge of the battlefield that was covered in mist layered with chakra. At Shina's signal, Ruto blew out a futant great breakthrough that tore across the battlefield and dispersed the mist with ease. There was a temporary lull in the battle as the Konoha teams and the missing ninjas observed the newcomers to the battle, wondering if they were friend or foe. Kakashi looked from his water prison at 2 masked shinobi that wore dark blue masks with yellow lightning bolts streaking down each cheek. The 2 shinobi walked forward without a care in the world. One was a massive and extremely ripped man that carried a large sword on his back. The other was a woman about 5 foot 7 inches that seemed familiar to the trapped copy ninja. Both newcomers had long, sun-kissed blonde hair and projected auras of absolute power. Ruto and Shina walked casually onto the battlefield and noticed that 2 Konoha genin squads were currently getting their butts whooped by a man they recognized from the bingo books and a masked ninja. It looked like one of the jonin was a beautiful female with a sizable sword wound on her left side. 2 girls, one with pink hair and one with pale lavender eyes, were tending to the downed jonin sensei. The other jonin seemed to be trapped in a water prison with 2 male genin in a standoff with the missing ninja. There were also remains of an igloo-looking construct that seemed to be made of ice. Inside the remains of the ice construct were 2 dark-haired shinobi, one male and the other female. The male was full of senbon, and the female was on guard. The masked shinobi had returned to his master's side when the wind jutsu repped across the clearing. The whole battlefield was in a temporary stunned silence as the newcomers casually strode up. Shina recognized Kakashi and Kurenai and signaled to Naruto that they should be saved. Shina let her son do the talking since he had such an intimidating presence and aura. "Zabuza Mamachi, I am honored to meet you on the field of battle. I would like to request that you let Mr. Hot Aki go and I will let you and your partner leave the battlefield." Naruto's voice was deep and he laced some kai in it for added emphasis. "Oh? Zabuza beat a non-existent eyebrow while his sidekick shuffled nervously. And who might you be to make such demands of me? Oh, you haven't heard of me. I am Maki, one of the divine bolts of Kumo, and I was one of the ones responsible for liberating your old homeland. Zabuza was so stunned he nearly released the water prison, and his assistant gasped and clutched her hands over her mouth. Zabuza growled before he spoke. You better not be funking with me, Mr. Maki. He then adopted a full-blown smirk that shone from beneath his bandages. Surely, if you did what you claimed then you wouldn't be scared of a clash of blades to prove your words to me. Naruto shrugged his shoulders, then unslung his greatsword. He looked at the Konoha teams and spoke in a firm tone. Do not get involved, Konoha-nin. Just protect Azuna-san and we will call it even. Kurenai spoke through her pain. Why are you helping us? The old man's daughter hired us to protect her family and kill Geto. So, that's what we are going to do. Naruto said in a nonplussed tone. Naruto then continued to walk towards Zabuza as he released all resistance and weight seals. Zabuza saw multiple seals on his challenger's body glow a bright blue before fading out. He gulped because he knew what those seals meant. Then his bloodlust overtook him as he released Kakashi from the water prison. The two swordsmen walked further out onto the ocean passage so that they had room to conduct their battle without interruption. You got balls, kid. I can respect that. Now show me if your blade work measures up. Naruto nodded and pulled a coin out of his pocket. He flicked the coin with his thumb into the air and both swordsmen waited for it to hit the water's surface. Before the first water droplet even left the surface of the water, both men disappeared in a blur of motion. Several heavy clashes of blades produced heavy metallic echoes across the battlefield. For every genin watching, they were simply blurs of motion, and Kurenai was too injured to pay attention to the battle. Shina decided not to watch, knowing that she had trained her son well enough that he would be able to handle himself. Shina walked up with her hands up toward the injured Kurenai. The girls tensed and the dog boy and a boy in a trench coat stepped in front of their downed sensei. Shina just kept walking forward with her hands in the air. Relax, kiddos. I know Kurenai from way back. I am going to help her. Kushina's tone was friendly and disarming. It worked immediately on Kiba, who began to ogle her shamelessly. Shina remained guarded but let her pass. Shina knelt down next to the injured Kurenai and pulled her big blue scroll off of her back. She began writing out a seal as she spoke to her old student. Long time no see, Nai-chan. How are you holding up? Kurenai's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates before she responded. She had gotten letters from Kushina over the years and she knew of her alias. Indeed, Lady Shina. It has been too long and I have been better. Kurenai bit back a grimace as Shina cleared away the remains of slashed bandages to inspect the wound. Shina then began creating a seal that would be able to convert her chakra into healing chakra before she placed the seal over the gash in Kurenai's side. Shina placed her hand over the seal and a green light encompassed the paper. After 30 seconds, the light dimmed and Shina removed the seal from Kurenai's side. Hinata gasped as the whole wound was healed without even leaving a scar. Kurenai subsequently passed out because the seal used her chakra to assist in mending the wound. Shina looked up through her mask at Hinata. Look after her, will you? I need to check on my son. Hinata simply nodded at the nonchalance this Kunoichi exuded. She appeared as a goddess of battlefield to the Hyuga girl or a goddess of death for anyone that dared defy her orders. The pink-haired Kunoichi was reduced to a sniveling mess in the presence of such a woman. Shina walked slowly and confidently up to the water's edge to observe the conclusion of the battle. She could tell Naruto was having too much fun with this sword fight, but she could also see the face-splitting grin showing through Zabuza's bandages. She decided that this would be enough for now. In a commanding tone, she called out. That's enough boys, sheath your swords and stand down. Zabuza couldn't explain why he followed the woman's orders without questioning them, but he did. He stopped his giant cleaver in mid-swing, as did Naruto with his greatsword. The two men slung their weapons, and then Naruto held out a fist, which Zabuza bumped. Not bad, Naruto, not bad at all. Tell me, who taught you the art of the sword? Zabuza asked. Naruto gestured with his head over to Shina. My mother, and let me tell you she is a taskmaster. A mother? How old are you, Gaki? Zabuza sounded incredulous at this. 14, but age is just a number, Zabuza-san. Your assistant seems pretty skilled and they must be around my age. Yeah, I trained Haku from the ground up. So, tell me, Brad. Zabuza paused as Naruto's katana point tickled his Adam's apple, making Zabuza hold his hands up disarmingly and gulp. Okay, tell me, Naruto, did the civil war really end? Yeah, me and the divine bolts left Mizuno Kuni 3 weeks ago after Mei became the Gondai Mei Mizukage. My Kachan, B-sensei, Mei and I stopped Yugura and ended him. That was one scary turtle man. Zabuza's jaw hit the ocean floor and dragged his bandages down off of his face to expose pointed teeth that gave the so-called demon of the mist an imposing visage. Naruto waved his hand in front of Zabuza's face to snap him out of it. Why, you're kidding me, right? Zabuza pivoted his head and looked at Kushina with more than a little exasperation in his voice, right? Naruto laughed and slapped Zabuza on the back. Afraid not, Zabuza, I'm afraid not. So, how do you want to go from here? The two walked back towards the land and the remaining shinobi, which were still frozen in a standoff. They casually conversed as they walked, and when they reached the land, Zabuza called Haku over and Shina joined them. Well, Rudo and Shina, I guess I should thank you for finishing off that bastard, Yugura. Kinda beats the whole reason we are here. Zabuza sounded like a man who had lost his reason for living. Shina spoke up, look, Zabuza, why don't you tell us what's going on and we can go from there. We have been missing ninjas for 6 or so years now. I picked up Haku on my way out of Kiri before the purges got truly bad. She has been with me ever since. I accepted this job from Gato in order to fund a rebellion and take another crack at him. So, could we convince you to roll over on Gato and give you your cut from his loot? Naruto asked. Haku looked hopefully at Zabuza from behind her mask, and Zabuza hung his head while he thought about it. Sure, why not? That dwarf pisses me off. Give me a couple days to scout out his base, so we know exactly what we will be dealing with and Haku can find out where the loot is. Naruto nodded before a shadow clone popped into existence next to him. The clone transformed into a pretty ice blue katana, which Naruto grabbed and threw to Haku. That is a shadow clone of mine. One of my abilities allows for complete transformation, so until you tell him to transform, he will stay like that. Tell him to dispel once you have the intel and are ready to meet. That's pretty funkin' impressive, Gaki. Haku nodded in affirmation of her master's words while she accepted the katana and sheathed it in the obi of her yukata. Meh, it has its uses. I have a whole bag of tricks from the Raikage and my Kachan. Shina pushed her son's shoulder playfully, alright, Sachi, that is enough playing around. We will wait for your call, Zabuza-san. Zabuza and Haku disappeared in water shunshuns while Rudo and Shina turned to the group. Shina made a hand sign and Samui appeared next to Rudo in a fizzle of lightning. The trio walked up to the Konoha teams and Shina took point. Kakashi-san, are your teams able to move? Tsunami said their house is only 10 minutes away. Shina said in a firm and professional tone. Kakashi smiled at the trio before nodding and slinging kunai over his shoulder. Sure thing, Lady Shina. I am pleased to be working with you on this mission. Squad 7 and 8, load up and prepare to move out. Sasumi, is Sasuke awake yet? Yes, Kakashi-sensei, my idiot brother is awake. He will require assistance moving though. She replied with a hint of exasperation in her tone. Before the group could react, a shrill scream made everyone cover their ears. Shut up Sasumi Baka. How dare you talk about Sasuke-kun like that? Shina nodded at the pink-haired girl and asked Kakashi. Is there an off button for the Banshee? Kakashi shook his head sadly while looking at the ground in disappointment. Sasumi snickered and Sakura looked enraged. A reluctant dog boy helped Sasuke walk and a very confused bridge builder looked lost until Shina asked for directions. That seemed to break him out of his stupor and he led the group to his house. Tsunami, Inari and Mabui were waiting on the porch of their house for the incoming group. Naruto could tell by Mabui's posture that she was worried about him, so he accepted the running hug and squeezed her warmly. Samui looked a little jealous until Rudo pulled her in with a toned arm. They snickered as they heard audible moans of jealousy from Sasumi and Sakura. The injured were led into the house and laid down in guest rooms. Naruto unsealed a tent for his squad and began setting it up before he added a protective barrier, privacy seal and genjutsu barrier around the tent. He then proceeded to trap the edge of the woods around Tazuna's home with alarm seals. Kakashi and Team 7 watched him work while Sasuke was recovering in a guest room. He walked up to them with his mask still on and beeped his head in inquiry. Oh, nothing, just wanted these two to see how a campsite is properly set up. So, divine bolt of Kumo, eh? Rudo rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly, which gave Sakura and Sasumi an armful of panty-wetting material to save in their spank banks. It didn't help that the two females were completely helpless under the effects of his passive Hanyu pheromone release. Meh, I didn't ask for the title, just kinda happened. So, I know you are Kakashi Hatake, but who are these two young ladies? The girl with dark black hair blushed profusely before bowing awkwardly and introducing herself. I am Samumi Uchiha. 14 years old and single. Rudo beeped an eyebrow under his face mask and then looked to Sakura. Sakura Haruno, heir to the Haruno clan and fiancé to Sasuke Uchiha, heir of the Uchiha clan. The girl raised her nose in the air in pride, which rubbed Rudo the wrong way. Cool, I am Rudo Maki. 14, Genin of Kumo. Pleased to meet ya. Rudo replied coolly. Sasumi blanched. You're a genin and only 14. Then how did you fight Zabuza evenly? Rudo rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly again and Sasumi drooled at his toned biceps. Well, my Kachan is a swords mistress and trained me from a young age. Kinda helps that I grew fast too. Well, I am going to go see if Tsunami-san needs any help preparing dinner. It was nice to meet you all. The girls remained in a frozen daze as they watched a hunk of a man walk into the house. It was Sasumi that broke the silence. Kakashi-sensei, are all foreign genin that crazy? Kakashi rubbed her head in an irritating fatherly way. No, Sasumi, I assure you that is probably the strongest genin you will ever see. Could you sense his chakra? Sasumi nodded. I am still working on this whole sensor thing, but he was like a beacon glowing in the dark even when he stood next to you. No offense, sensei, but he absolutely dwarfed you in terms of chakra reserves. Kakashi nodded. None taken, but you are right. He is on Kage level when it comes to chakra alone. I wonder how good he is at controlling it. Sakura blanched to pale white. If he can control it, wouldn't that make him Kage level? Not necessarily. One thing that sets the Kage apart is battlefield experience. If he is only 14 then it is likely he doesn't have much experience. He is undoubtedly a powerhouse though. Internally Kakashi was smiling at the thought of his little brother getting that strong. He would have to take advantage of this opportunity to get to know him in private. Later that night, everyone was gathered around the tables set up in the dining room. The Kumo detail along with Kakashi and Kurenai sat at the main table while the Konoha genin sat at the extra table. This seemed to rub Sasuke the wrong way and he wasn't scared to show it. This caused Shina to shake her head. Mikoto had sent her letters expressing concern about Sasuke's attitude and Fugaku's influence. Naruto clones brought out the dinner compost of fish, rice and squash for everyone. Tsunami was very grateful for the extra help and marveled at the use of shadow clones. Unfortunately, this was one point of contention for the Konoha teams. Ruto-san, how do you know the shadow clone jutsu? I thought that it was a Konoha exclusive technique. Sasumi asked politely. Shina scoffed at that. This jutsu has been in my clan since the Warring Clan era. Leave it to Konoha to claim something as theirs when it is most definitely not. Do you know anyone in Konoha that can create 1000 shadow clones? Cause my Sachi can. Achan, that is enough. Remember who we are talking to. Ruto's tone was firm and it came out as more of an order than a friendly reminder. Shina paled under her mask, she just assumed she would be safe around Kakashi and Kurenai. Naruto made a good point though, Uchiha would definitely report everything to their father. An awkward silence pervaded the dining table before Sasumi spoke up again. So, Ruto-san, you said you are 14 and from Kumo, right? Ruto simply nodded and finished chewing some fish. His face still hidden by a game jutsu. Well, I just don't see how you got so strong then. My father trained Sasuke and I nearly every day and you were just a blur to me. Ruto finished another bite of food before responding. It is not how long you train, or how hard you believe you train, or even if you are trained by legendary shinobi. What matters is being trained right, diversifying the training and making use of downtime. When your legs are so tired and cramped that you can't force them to do another lunge, what do you do? Sasumi seemed to think, slightly embarrassed that she had never really reached that point of exhaustion before. Lay down and rest my muscles, I guess. Ruto smiled wryly at her as everyone else listened in. So, I take it you don't reach that point of physical exhaustion often. By the look of you and your brother, I would say you do more chakra-intensive exercises and when you get tired from that you call it a workout. Sasuke snarled and didn't let Naruto complete his thought. Shut up, you non-name bastard, I am an Uchiha. Uchihas are the elite of the elite. Some clanless fool like. Naruto was holding his mother back and trying to calm her down. Sakura had laid herself in front of Sasuke to protect him and Kakashi remained kicked back and relaxed. If his stupid Uchiha student didn't know what was best for his health, then maybe a beating from the Red Death would set him straight or kill him. It didn't matter to Kakashi either was as long as he wouldn't have to put up with the stuck-up Uchiha any longer. Naruto turned to Sasuke after calming Shina down. Well, you're one stuck-up father funker. I wouldn't want to insult the Lady Mikoto by calling you a mofo. Snickers from Tazuna's family and the Kumo squad made this comment hit home for Sasuke. Stay in your seat, Uchiha, before I take your legs and shove them up your ass. Oh, my bad, they wouldn't fit with that giant spiked rod you currently have lodged up there. Kiba fell out of his seat laughing. Akamaru was prostrating himself to the true alpha in the room. Shino's insects seemed to be chirping in a pleased and rhythmic fashion. Hinata was giggling into her sleeve and the senseis had turned their heads away from the genin and their shoulders were bouncing. Sasuke was seething and Sakura was so stunned it even shut down her banshee mode. Naruto smirked under his mask before continuing. I tell you what, baby Uchiha, I will give you the spar you want to prove your strength tomorrow. That is if you can complete my warm-up. Shina, Samui and Mabui all got evil grins on their faces while Sasuke smirked. A loser like you could never outdo an Uchiha. The dinner continued in an awkward fashion until it was over and the Kumo group helped Tsunami pick up the dishware. Sasuke called it peasant work and the Konoha team just played a game of cards rather than helping. Tsunami was grateful for the assistance and muttered a comment under her breath that she wished the Kumo team would be the one staying in the house. Naruto rubbed her back in a comforting fashion and said they are just right outside if she needs anything. He had already keyed her chakra signature into the seals protecting the tents. The Kumo squad retired to the tent that was enhanced with space manipulating Fuinjutsu. In the center was a king-size bed that Naruto liked to travel with. His mother didn't mind sharing the bed with her son and girlfriends, she said it reminded her of old times when Naruto would jump into her bed. They fell asleep, Samui on the left and Mabui on the right with Kushina sleeping cuddled up next to Mabui. That is how Tsunami found them when she entered the tent and told the group that breakfast was ready. Naruto got dressed and left the tent to notice the sun peeking over the sea and casting its morning glory down upon the world. He then glanced down and noticed another morning glory that was getting ever more annoying to deal with. He tucked it into his waistband and walked into the house reminding himself that he was Naruto. He noticed he was the first one up, so he helped Tsunami set the table and made light conversation with her. Naruto was sad that such an amazing woman and mother was forced to be alone due to the shitty state that wave was in. After breakfast, the Kumo team got ready for a morning workout. Kakashi and Kurenai encouraged their teams to partake in the workout as well. Naruto led them through 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups, 500 air squats, 150 pull-ups, 150 burpees. He completed these exercises 20 minutes ahead of any Konoha genin. Rather than wait, he jumped into the ocean for a swim, followed by Kushina, Samui and Mabui. The Kumo squad swam laps and encouraged taunted the Konoha genin each time they swam past. Eventually, a panting team of genin was on their backs before Naruto forced them up for a run. Naruto set a point about 2 miles down on the beach and everyone started running. Naruto made it down and nearly halfway back when he waved to Sasuke, who was sucking air and nearly collapsing. 5 minutes later, Naruto tapped him on the back and laughed as he lapped him. The Konoha genin stopped after 4 miles, while Naruto ran 12 and the girls stopped at 8 miles. After the warm-up, Naruto pulled the Konoha genin to a clearing near Tazuna's house. They were partially recovered, but he looked at Sasuke and asked if he wanted that spar now. A smirk appeared on the Uchiha's face as he flared his 2-tomo Sharingan to life. Naruto looked at the red eyes with disdain before he moved to the center of the clearing. Okay, little Uchiha, you may come at me with the intent to kill. I will limit myself to no hands and will only defend for the first minute. I warn you, if you don't finish this so-called spar in 1 minute, you will lose. Naruto said in a cheerful and clearly taunting fashion. The Uchiha looked incensed that this no-name, at least to him, was looking down on him. He didn't take the hint from the morning warm-up. Thus, everyone watched as Naruto held his hands behind his back and dodged around Sasuke's strikes. Some of the punches Naruto deflected with his shoulders, the kicks he blocked with his legs, and one straight cross that Sasuke threw, led Naruto to headbutt the Uchiha's fist with the crown of his head. Sasuke cried out in pain after that and jumped back, not realizing that his minute was up. Sasuke began to flash through hand seals for his signature jutsu when a knee planted itself in his solar plexus. One hit and the Uchiha crumpled to the ground like a leaf in the hands of a petulant toddler. Okay, so can I assume we are done and you will not bother me or my team again for the rest of this mission? Naruto's tone was unfamiliar and frigid. Sasuke was coughing up spittle on the ground and he glared up at Naruto with his Sharingan blazing. If you look at me like that with those monkey marbles active, I will take great joy in removing them from your eye sockets before handing them to your sister. Wow, how cough how are you cough so strong? Teach cough me. Even through his coughing fit with spit hanging from his chin, Sasuke still somehow managed to sound demanding. Naruto smirked underneath his mask and held his hands out wide. 10 seals flared to life before dulling out. There you go, team. That's how, now you figure out the rest. Naruto playfully jumped nearly 40 feet in the air and giggled about how light he felt. Sasuke glared at Naruto before looking to Kakashi and demanding that he get whatever Naruto just showed him. Kakashi shrugged, maybe the kid would shut up if he gave him some chakra weights. I don't have any chakra weights on me, but those weren't the only seals that Naruto-san was using. Were those gravity seals, Naruto-san? Kakashi's tone actually carried a hint of curiosity. Nope, oh and by the way, team. I did that morning warm-up with those seals on. Think about that when you think about trying to catch up with me. Shino asked, genuinely curious, Naruto-san, how much weight do you have total on your seals? Naruto shrugged casually. Dunno, lost count after each limb exceeded 200 pounds. Math was never my strong suit, teehee. Naruto ended by beeping his head to the side in a playful gesture, it would have been funnier if he weren't masked. Tsutsumi decided to throw the next question out. Naruto, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how are you still a genin? Naruto shrugged again and pointed to his team. Well, I mean we only graduated from the academy less than 3 months ago. Just waiting for a Chunin exam. Hey, the next one is in Konoha, right Kakashi-san? Kakashi looked up from his orange book and I smiled. Yes, indeed it is. In about 2 months' time. Naruto snapped his fingers. I knew it was close. Well, I guess we will see you there. Now, enjoy your tree climbing exercise while we go off and scope out the town. John Ah. Naruto, Samui, Mabui and Shina shunshed to a nearby clearing and they immediately broke out in laughter upon their arrival. They couldn't hold it in any longer. They held a conversation through fits of laughter. Samui opened up. Oh, Naruto-kun, that was so mean it was cool. Yeah, Sachi, did you see the looks on all of their faces? Oh, Kami, that was funny, Dadabang. Kushina was holding her side while rolling on her back. Mabui was giggling melodically, Naruto-kun, you just destroyed them. I think that Sakura girl nearly pissed herself when you dropped your seals. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Yeah, I am more worried about the Hokage girl trying to rape me. Did you see the way she looked at me? Bleh. Naruto exaggerated, shaking out his body. Shina bonked him on the head. Be nice, Naruto-kun. That was one of Hitomi's girls. She is one of the okay ones even though she is slightly stuck up. I will brief you all on our plan for the Chunin exams when we get back to Kumo. Naruto beeped his head to the side, there's a plan. Not just go in and funk shit up. More to follow on that, Sachi. For now, let's go check out the town and try to help out some people. His mother responded playfully. The group walked toward the town chatting amicably. They were enjoying each other's company, but the mood crashed when they got to the edge of the town. What once must have been a vibrant place now looked like a shanty town. There were people on nearly every street corner, filthy and in torn clothes, looking completely destitute. The worst part was when Naruto made eye contact with them through his mask and complete hopelessness peered back at him. An endless abyss devoid of the love and joy that makes humanity special. Then Naruto realized he was wrong, the absolute worst part was seeing that look on the faces of children. Children should be able to enjoy their childhood without being weighed down by the crushing weight of the real world. A fire lit in Naruto's chest, a fire that would not go out until Geto was dead and these people were free. The Kumo squad continued walking along the path toward the center of town when they heard a commotion. They split up and blurred to the rooftops that surrounded the town square. In a shop on the edge of the town square, a man and his daughter were being dragged out of the shop by their hair. There was a total of 4 thugs that wore shoddy gear that were getting great enjoyment out of torturing the poor souls. Thug 1, who was snacking on some bread, could be heard saying. Now look here Minho, we told you to make breakfast for us. We are protecting you filthy people and you have the audacity to ask us, your protectors, for money. The man continued to chew the bread with an open mouth before he spit the chewed bread on the old man. His daughter cried next to him only to be backhanded by Thug 2. Naruto had seen enough, he made meaningful eye contact with his mother, who issued hand signals to the squad. Before the public torture and humiliation could continue, foreheads rolled and blood spurted. Naruto shielded the girl from the ghastly sight and the spray of blood. He looked to his mother, got a nod, before he made an announcement. As he spoke, he created 20 shadow clones to scout the city and kill any thugs in the vicinity. People of Wave, we are here on the behalf of Kumo to liberate you from your oppressor. Please gather your friends and family here in 2 hours for a community meal. If anyone has cookware, we would appreciate the extra help. Do not fear Geto's petty tyranny any further, we will protect you. A stunned silence answered Naruto when he saw 3 guys begin running to the east side of the island. He made a signal to his mother before he disappeared alongside Samui and Mabui. They dragged the runaway thugs back completely tied up and tossed them at the feet of the villagers. Surprisingly, it was Samui that spoke up this time. We will be here to protect you while my man here gathers food. In the meantime, I believe you could have fun playing with the tough little men here if you so wish. Remember, Wave need not fear Geto any further. This time, cheers erupted and a mob began closing in around the 3. The civilians threw them in the stocks that Geto had erected in the public square. What followed was rather disturbing, but will suffice to say that the thugs were covered in more than one kind of bodily fluid by the time lunch was ready. The girls took up protective positions around the town square while Naruto created 300 clones to hunt, fish and scour the island. Within the 2-hour time limit, Naruto had prepared enough food for 500 people. Sadly, it was still not enough. The villagers of Wave brought silverware and cookware from their houses to take food. Orphan children were crying openly and thanking Naruto for the food. Life seemed to stir in the eyes of the villagers, a weak ember for now, but it would grow into a fire before too long. Naruto created clones that would watch the village around the clock. Now that Geto's ego took a hit, it was only a matter of time before he lashed out in petty revenge. After Ruto prepared dinner once again for the villagers, this one mainly compassed of fish, Ruto felt a string of memories from the shadow clone he had given Haku. He let his mother know before he took off for the bridge, the designated meeting spot. He showed up to awaiting Zabuza and the maskless Haku. Ruto admitted to himself that she was genuinely pretty. She had snow-white skin with nearly perfect complexion, her brown hair was tied in a bun with 2 bangs that framed her face, and the pink yukata she wore suited her perfectly. Ruto walked up to them casually and gave a wave. "Alright, Gaki, that stunt you pulled has Gato going crazy. He is going to lash out in some underhanded way, and he is trying to make me do it. I believe we should hit him tonight and ransack his place." Ruto nodded. "Okay, Zabuza-san, what are we up against? And it is nice to see you again, Haku-chan." Haku blushed furiously before Zabuza broke up the moment. "Look, Gaki, somewhere between 180 to 200 guys. They have at least 30 or so girls that are being held prisoner. You don't want to know what they do with them. Their discipline is shitty, and I have half the mind to raid the place myself, but too many would get away. Then I would have that hanging over my head." Ruto nodded along. "Gotcha, any special security measures?" Haku spoke up. Just the privacy wall and some basic patrols. His money is locked in a safe, but I am fairly certain that he keeps the code somewhere in his office. The girls are held in the basement, which they converted to a dungeon. They are locked up with chains and they are used almost every night." Ruto's face wrinkled in disgust at that. "Okay, well, let's put an end to all that. What time do you want to strike?" "Don't worry about a perimeter force, my clones will handle it." Zabuza whistled. "Damn, Gaki, how many of those clones can you make? I heard they require a shitload of chakra. Let's hit 'em at 10 PM, meet up at our bunker at 9 PM, so we can go scout." Ruto shrugged, "Dunno, upper limits over 1000. Never really need more than that. Here, Haku." He threw another transformed katana at the girl. "Okay, so meet you in 2 hours, southeastern side of the island, I will pop my clone when we get close." Haku frowned at that. "Haha, Haku-chan, if Zabuza is too stingy to get you a new katana, I will gift you one." Zabuza looked from Ruto to Haku and back again. "You never told me you wanted a katana." Haku looked down at the ground. "You never asked, and I didn't wish to bother you," the black-haired girl murmured. Zabuza scowled while Ruto laughed. Ruto unclipped his katana, which was a premium piece, and gave it to Haku. "Consider it a nice-to-know-you present. It may be a little long for you, but you should get used to it pretty quickly. The length will just slow your draw a little bit, so I would recommend an unsheathed Kenjutsu style." Zabuza smirked, "Damn, Gaki, you know your swords. We will have to continue our little spar later. For now, we are going back to our bunker. Get your little ladies and meet us in 2 hours." 2 hours later, Ruto led Shina, Mabui and Samui to the bunker. Ruto threw a kunai at the door to the bunker to grab Zabuza's attention, and Haku waved them in. Zabuza went over a rough layout of the mansion and his ideas for a mission plan, which Shina not so politely stomped on. "Look, Zabuza-san, you are used to working alone. Let me show you how a team does this. I will send Mabui with Haku to the bottom levels. They will deal with the thugs and free the girls. They will immediately evacuate to this rendezvous point here." She pointed to a hilltop to the north of the mansion. "Ruto will surround all exits with shadow clones and neutralize any escapees. Zabuza, you and I will take floors 1 and 2, we will move and clear together. Ruto and Samui, you force entry on 3rd floor, clear it, and then take Gato. Me, Zabuza, Samui and Ruto will meet to confirm all clear before we seal up the place. After securing all valuables, we will join Mabui and Haku at the rendezvous." Haku looked down and sounded nervous. "Ah no, Zabuza-sama, I like Lady Shina's plan better." After Zabuza pouted for a bit at Haku's supposed betrayal, the group did final gear checks. Shina tossed a couple enhanced storage scrolls to Zabuza and gave one to Haku. Shina noticed the katana in Haku's obi, but Ruto waved her off, which earned him a growl from his mother. The group set out at 9:30 PM and creeped up on Gato's mansion. The mansion was a 4-story house that backed into the cliffside and overlooked the ocean. It made it so the only approach was from a 180-degree angle from the front. Fortunately, they were up against thugs and Ronin, not well-trained shinobi. Zabuza set out a light mist to cover their movements up to the walls. Haku took out the sentries with well-placed senbon needles, and the group divided up to complete their tasks. On Zabuza and Kushina's signal, the group breached the building. Naruto and Samui used the commotion to break a window and jump into the 3rd floor. Haku and Mabui took the cellar entrance to sneak down to the hostages. Floors 1 and 2 soon looked like an old school slaughterhouse. Blood flowed down the hallways, following the whims of gravity. Blood splattered the walls, carpets and ceiling indiscriminately. The sounds of the fighting on the main floors roused bandits to reinforce that area, many of which were cut down en route by Haku, Samui, Mabui and Ruto. The sounds of battle raged for nearly 20 minutes before bandits started fleeing from the mansion. Clones cut them down at the doors and ensured that there were no survivors. Haku and Mabui silently disposed of 2 guards and 4 rapists before they began freeing the girls. Haku used an ice wall to seal the staircase that led into the dungeon cellar. They worked slowly and methodically, providing as much comfort as they could to the mentally destroyed women. They evacuated them after a total of 15 minutes, and it took them almost an hour to get the group to the rendezvous point. Samui and Naruto darted down the hallway, one person clearing each room on their designated side of the hallway. Some of the bandits were so drunk that they didn't even wake up from the racket down below. Those that did perished due to vastly inferior speed and fighting capability. The whole 3rd floor was cleared in less than 10 minutes, and then Naruto breached the trapdoor to the 4th floor. He punched the door off its hinges and threw up a bundle of flash tags. Screams of bandits let Naruto know that the tags achieved their purpose before he jumped to the ceiling of the 4th floor. Naruto felled 2 of the guards before Samui joined him and helped clean up the rest. Naruto saw a sealed door that went into Geito's bedroom study. He placed 4 unidirectional explosive tags on the door and used the door as an instrument of blunt destruction as it crashed into the far wall. Naruto froze when he entered the room, and so did Samui. Geito was holding a naked Redeed with a knife to her throat. He panicked when he saw the blood dripping off of Naruto's greatsword, and he drew a trickle of blood from the girl's throat. Naruto didn't wait for anything further, he substituted with the girl using Kawarimi. The height disparity earned him a knife to his right pectoral. He spun around and grabbed Geito by the throat before slamming him into the wall. He lifted him up until his arm was at a 45-degree angle, which meant that the midget businessman's feet were flailing nearly 2 feet above the ground. Geito's hands clawed at Naruto's gloved hands before Naruto snarled and unceremoniously tossed the businessman into the wall with the safe. The midget lay in a crumpled heap in front of the wall. Samui covered the naked girl in a cloak and walked her out of the room. "Now, Geito, here is how this is going to go. As of today, you are broke, you're penniless, you are the most worthless scum on this earth. The only, and I mean only, thing that will stop me from removing your head from your neck is you signing over everything. Including what is in the safe. I clear?" Naruto laced an unhealthy amount of killing intent into his threat, which earned a fresh puddle of piss on the floor. Geito nodded, doing anything to save his worthless life. He was running on unbridled fear and a desperation to cling to life. He started by opening the safe and removing the deeds to his companies. After he did this, Naruto inspected the documents. He then had Geito open a smaller sealed safe within the safe. He beeped an eyebrow when it was protected by a blood seal. He pulled a folder out of that and handed it to Naruto. He then stepped out of the way, which Naruto ignored and gave him a powerful chop to the back of his neck before placing a paralysis seal on him. Samui entered with a now clothed Redeed, quite a familiar shade of red if Naruto were being honest. He removed his mask, pulled down the black face mask and smiled at the girl. "Hey there, I am Naruto, what's your name?" Naruto's smile was kind and disarming. Riaz." She stuttered out. "Riaz, huh? That's a pretty name. Well, Riaz, we have some business to finish before we get you out of here. Are you going to be okay?" She simply nodded and stood there. When she saw the downed Geito, she kicked him in the balls and then pulled her foot back, completely disgusted due to the wetness that clung to her foot. Naruto shot her an apologetic look before resecuring his face mask. He then proceeded to seal up the whole safe into a master scroll. Naruto and Samui took their time going through the 3rd floor and sealing anything of value. Sadly, none of the thugs had any weapons worth mentioning, but Naruto was hoping he struck big with the safe. An hour and 15 minutes after mission start, roughly 1115 p.m., Naruto and Samui walked up the hill with Riaz in tow on Naruto's back. The girl was blushing furiously as she laid her head into the chiseled muscle. Sheena beeped her head when she saw the girl, and Naruto flashed her the signals for family maybe. Sheena simply nodded before leading the girls and her team back to the town center. Just after midnight, Naruto and company, which included Riaz, returned to Tazuna's house after dropping off the other captives in town. Riaz took the opportunity to bathe in the ocean and wash off Geito's stink before she entered the Maki's tent. She saw a sleeping bag laid out next to a king-sized bed. It was then that she noticed the tent was much bigger than it looked from outside. She was too tired to care, so she simply collapsed on the sleeping mat after offering her thanks. The next day Riaz woke up and thought that she was trapped in a fever dream. The sunlight illuminated the tent and created a golden glow as she sat up off of the bedroll. She looked down and noticed that she was in a plain white tee that wasn't big enough for her burgeoning chest. She was missing her bra and the fabric of the plain t-shirt pulled her breasts against her and created more cleavage than she was used to. The sweats were baggy but seemed to fit her fairly well, that is when she heard moaning. Riaz peeked her head up over the edge of the bed to see the most kami-blessed man she had ever seen. Sun-kissed blonde locks flickered to and fro and led to a chiseled face with 6 whisker marks and a defined chin. As if in a trance, Riaz continued to slowly look down the godlike body in front of her. She licked her lips at the defined pectoral muscles with a whirlpool tattoo over his heart. Below the pec she saw 8 well-defined abdominal muscle and obliques that were so defined, she could see each ripple of muscle. He wore baggy sweatpants that did very little to hide his morning bulge. She gulped audibly and started feeling hot all over. Then her trance broke and she noticed the 3 women draped over his arms and chest. She found it odd that 4 of the shinobi that saved her last night were right here, completely relaxed and splayed out in front of her. Why did they trust her so much? Why didn't they drop her off in town with the other girls? Before she could ponder further, the blonde's eyes cracked open to reveal the most entrancing azure blue eyes she had ever seen. When he made eye contact with her, it was like the last month as Gato's slave washed away. Naruto noticed tears forming in the girl's eyes and sat up slowly so as not to wake the others. He nodded to the tent flap and he walked outside with Riaz while he threw on a black beater-style shirt. She noticed every ripple of his arm muscles as he put the shirt on and she couldn't stop her tongue from moisturizing her lips. His deep voice reached through the haze of her mind. Good morning, it was Riaz, right? The girl nodded her head, still lost in her fever dream. Okay, well, you can call me Ruto. You are probably wondering why we brought you here instead of leaving you with the others, aren't you? Again, the redhead nodded dumbly, but she processed his shining smile. Well, it was on more of a hunch than anything. Tell me, Riaz, if there were a test that could prove if we are family or not, would you take it? Riaz's whole world froze as she processed the question, before she nodded weakly at this Adonis of a man. Kami, please don't let him be my long-lost brother. Even if we are cousins, I should be able to win him over. Her whole mind was focused on the feelings that Ruto was eliciting from her and she couldn't stop the warmth that was filling her body. Ruto appeared from the tent flap holding a scroll, which he summarily opened. He pointed to some writing on the scroll and told her that she would need to cut herself, put blood on her fingertips and palm, and then place her hand in the seal. She could recall vague memories of her mother and grandmother doing something with writing and blood. Riaz complied without much resistance and placed her bloodied hand against the seal. The seal glowed blue and absorbed the blood before a couple symbols flashed at the bottom of the seal. She beeped her head and looked to Naruto, who was rolling the scroll up. Well, Riaz-chan, let's just say we are extended family and you are 50% Uzumaki. I don't want you to use that clan name while we are here, just call it the Maki clan. It is important that you don't mention it to the Konoha ninjas that are staying in that house. They might be working to protect the bridge builder, but you are not safe around them if they figure out your heritage. Naruto leaned closer and whispered in her ear, which made her blush cherry red. My real name is Naruto Uzumaki, I am also 50% Uzumaki. My mom was in the tent and she is probably the last pure-blooded Uzumaki that there is. Riaz simply closed the minimal distance and hugged her cousin or whatever he was family. She rested her head on his chest and began crying as she realized she was safe and that she had endured months of torture that she wouldn't wish on her greatest enemy. Naruto scooped her up and took her to sit on the small dock, which allowed them to put their feet in the water. Riaz soaked up the morning sunrise like it was a metaphor for her life. She just made it out of the darkness and a new day was dawning. A new chance to start over with family. Eventually, everyone returned to the land of the living and Tsunami insisted on having breakfast with the villagers. Ruto created a horde of clones that spread out along the coast and caught more fish. He took his catch to the village center and handed it off to a group of women that were running the community kitchen. He also gave them a scroll with some of the food and ingredients that they confiscated from Gato's mansion. The villagers began working together to prepare a massive breakfast to feed the whole town, which served as proof that life was coming back to Wave. As the villagers gathered and enjoyed their breakfast, Ruto went to the stocks, which were raised above the rest of the town. He took out a scroll, unfurled it and unsealed a man that immediately began crying, sniveling and begging for mercy. I signed everything over to you. You said that you would let me live. You can't do this to me. This isn't fair. Gato was silenced by a dirty rag that was shoved into his mouth. I told you that if you did what I said, my sword would not part your head from your shoulders. I never promised you freedom. I never promised you anything because you don't deserve anything. Ruto replied in an enraged tone that garnered attention. The people of Wave stirred uneasily as they noticed who the man was. Fiery rage began to fill the eyes of the villagers and it didn't take long for numerous conversations to turn into screams of anger. Kushina, Mabui and Mabui stood behind Ruto, who rose his arms in a plea for silence. Ruto noticed that Zabuza and Haku were standing on the edge of the crowd and gave them a quick nod. People of Wave, yesterday, I told you that you would no longer have to fear Gato's tyranny. With the help of Haku and Zabuza Mamachi, we raided Gato's base last night and killed his forces. A massive cheer rang out over those assembled and Ruto saw Tsunami and Inari step to the front of the crowd. He ushered them up and Tsunami grabbed Tazuna as she walked up. This family, the family of a simple bridge okay Tazuna-san, a super bridge builder, this switched the audience from rage to mildly entertained. Anyway, this family stood up to Gato's tyranny and risked everything to enlist our help. Kumo, Konoha and unlikely allies from the mist have fought to earn back your freedom. Once again, another round of deafening cheers filled the air. It is great to see your fire and will be reignited. Hold on to it, stoke it, nurture it and the next time thugs try to put you down, fight for it. On behalf of Kumo, I will tell you that you will always have allies there. If you need us, call us and we will come to your aid. This round of cheers lasted for minutes as chants of praise rang out. Ruto waited patiently for it to die down. Good news, what I have to share with you is good news. I have confiscated all of the midget tyrant's possessions and I will be working with Tazuna-san and Tsunami-san to get your rightful possessions back to you. The crowd threatened to close on Ruto and smother him in praise, but he waved them down for another speech. Do more things. 1. I need everyone here to report to the bridge tomorrow at 10 AM. 2nd, I need you to elect a new daimyo, since Gato killed the previous daimyo of Wave. Finally, I'm sorry I know this makes 3 things, I was never really good at counting. Anyway, I recommend we hold a celebration tonight before we get our butts to work tomorrow. Ruto could no longer hold back the crowd as the people attempted to lift him up. He laughed at their failed attempts before the seals on his body glowed blue before he nodded at them. The crowd then swept Ruto up and crowd surfed him around for a bit. The Kumo team and Haku joined him in the crowd surfing, unfortunately for Zabuza, he was too imposing for people to attempt to lift him. The party commenced immediately after Ruto was set down as he unsealed scrolls from Gato's mansion and unsealed booze, liquor and sake. He let people come up and grab once they got in line, and a wild party raged through the day and well into the night. As Ruto was speaking, Shina was crying tears of pride in her mask. She offered prayers to Minato wishing that he could see the man their son had become. Samui and Mabui thought along similar lines, and their masks nearly cracked from stretching so much to fit their smiles. Haku looked at the hero of the mist and the new hero of Wave. She marveled at the boy's strength and wondered if she could get that strong or find something that she loved that much. Zabuza cracked a grin at his newfound rival. It didn't matter that he was only a gaki, this kid was going places and he enjoyed the swordplay. Akari sipped on tea within the seal as she watched the view through Naruto's eyes. She knew, with zero shades of a doubt, that she chose the right mate. She was simply waiting for the time he became strong enough for her to leave the seal without hurting him. She made a mental note to pull him into the seal that night and ravage him, just a little bit. Kakashi and Kurenai looked on with pride, and they were happy that their sensei's son found a home where he could grow up strong and happy. They also wondered if they would be happier if they left Konoha to join Ruto. Sasuke scowled and emitted a jealous aura that poisoned the joy of others around him, which is probably why he was alone as he brooded over the love and affection that should have been his. Sakura watched Sasuke, and since Sasuke hated Ruto, so did she. Sasumi and Hinata looked with stars in their eyes like love-struck puppies, wondering why nobody in their village could measure up to Ruto. Hinata was upset because she had a wet dream that was ruined when she couldn't properly envision Ruto's face last night, which frustrated her greatly. Ruto and company, along with Kakashi and Kurenai, meandered back to the house late at night, drunk on the effects of sake, and saw Sasuke passed out in front of the Maki's tent. He looked meaningfully at Kakashi, who sighed and scooped Sasuke up before taking him inside. He apologized to the Kumo team before he joined the Konoha teams inside. That night, Riaz decided to join the growing clusterfink on the bed as she curled up behind Samui. Morning came again and Ruto was woken with a start as soft lips pressed against his. He didn't even open his eyes, he simply pulled whoever down and began kissing them passionately. When the woman passed out in his arms, he opened his eyes to see Tsunami passed out on his chest with a massive blush and smile on her face. Hikari giggled for nearly an hour after that one. Eventually, the group woke up, ate breakfast and then joined the rest of the town at the bridge. With everyone working together, it took 5 days to finish the remainder of the bridge. The day after the bridge completion party, Tsunami pulled Ruto aside while she was preparing breakfast again. The woman looked abashed as Ruto cradled her cheek in his hand and stroked softly with his thumb. The silent encouragement helped her work up the courage to make her request. Ruto, I don't know what the future is going to hold with me as the daimyo of Wave, but I thought about something a lot over the past week and I wanted to make a request. Ruto simply smiled at her, passively telling her to continue. I want a baby, with you. I am not foolish enough to expect marriage, but I want Inari to be an older brother. I want another one. She put a soft finger over his lips before he could respond. I don't need an answer now or even this year. Unless I find another man to love, I want you. It is only right that the offspring of the hero of Wave should take over for me when the time comes. Think about it for me. She smiled cutely before pulling him down and placing a soft kiss on his lips. He would have to talk to his mother and girls about this. The Kumo team was assembled in the town square in front of the whole of Wave Country's population. They were there to see them off after the Konoha team left the day prior. The crowd cheered wildly as Ruto summoned Virginia, who beeped her head at Ruto for the craziness of the crowd. He simply shrugged and mounted his squad as well as Ria's onto the giant bird of prey. Shouts of hero echoed out of the land of waves that had a brand new attraction, the Bridge of Divine Bolts. The team returned to Kumo 2 days after they left Wave. Kushina wanted to stop by Yuzushio and show it off to Ria's. Naruto didn't even attempt to protest before he passed the order to Virginia. They spent a day on Yuzu checking in on the farms, builders and the slowly growing citizenship. Ria's decided that she wanted to go to Kumo for the time being and spend time with her Uzumaki family. The heroic group walked into Ai's office talking like the family they were. Kushina let Naruto take the lead and Naruto opened the report to Ai. Good afternoon, Ai Gai-san. Team 12 reporting back in from successful A-rank mission to Wave. We protected the family, turned Zabuza into a good guy and sent him back to Kiri, defeated Gato, stole what he stole, fed the people of Wave, restored their hope, finished their bridge, elected a new daimyo of Wave who wants to have a kid with me, and found a lost Uzumaki. Yeah, I think that's it. The whole room seemed to freeze as Samui and Mabui's feminine fury converted directly into reducing the room's temperature. Naruto turned around and held his hands up defensively. Hey now, I didn't accept. She told me to think about it and I haven't really given it much thought, but I would never do anything without get approval from my girls. I promise, I love you both too much. The freezing pressure disappeared instantly and both girls blushed furiously. Kushina wore a highly amused smile on her face, while Ria sat there confused. I looked simply stunned at the developments that occurred from a simple assassination mission. Oh yeah, Raikage Gai-san, we ran into 2 teams of Konoha ninjas, led by Hotaki Kakashi and Kurenai Yuhi. Let me tell you about our conversation. Flashback the night before Konoha teams left. Kakashi and Kurenai snuck out of the house to speak with Kushina and Naruto. The group took a walk on the moonlit beach to enjoy the beauty of Wave and get some toes in the sand. The conversation started lighthearted until Kurenai spoke up. Sensei, it is getting harder and harder to remain in Konoha. The men of the village see me as some conquest and have gone as far as invoking clan powers. Fugaku is very close to forcing me to marry since I am of birthing age according to him. I like my genin team, Kiba is rough around the edges and a damned pervert, but he is loyal. Shino is ever dependable, and I think I trust the kid, but it is hard to know with an Aburami. Hinata started nice, but since she is older than her twin sister, Hanabi, her father is going to use the Chunin exams as a test to see which one will become clan heir and which one will get the caged bird seal. Everyone stayed relaxed as Kurenai kept ranting. I feel something dark, something rotten in the village, and the feeling has only grown since Fugaku became Hokage. If we are going to pull off this great escape, I would like to know when so I could at least see the light at the end of the tunnel. Kushina pulled her previous student into a motherly hug as she rubbed her back. Kakashi and Naruto stopped and each put a hand on her shoulder as a show of support. There, Nai-chan. I would never let any of those filthy men lay their hands on you. You want to know when? The finals of the Chunin exams. You want to know how? Orochimaru approached Ai for support on the invasion of Konoha. Ai said he would not take sides, but he was rooting for Orochimaru. Ai simply could never trust the snake. It seems like the snake has Tsunagakure on his side though. During this invasion, we will fake your deaths and get you out of that hellhole. Kurenai cried happy tears hearing that her suffering would soon be ending, so she firmed her resolve for this last bit, the last stretch. Kakashi looked up and locked eyes with Kushina. What do you need from us, Kasama? Kushina looked to Naruto before looking back at the two. For the last 9 years you guys have found people worth saving. I trust your discretion. You may use my name to recruit them and you will make them 2 offers. They may either come to live in Kumo or they can choose to be part of the new Yuzu. There is not much of a difference since new Yuzu will be eternally allied to Kumo seeing as Naruto is in line to be the next Raikage. Kakashi and Kurenai's eyes widened at this, but they let Kushina continue. As for what needs to be done, Kakashi have they found a way into the Namikaze or Uzumaki estates yet? No, Kasama. They have tried everything they can. On that note, you should be on high alert. They are actively looking for you, Miss Seal Mistress of Kumo. Since the Uchiha saw you use that healing seal on Nai-chan, I will have to report it. I will play it off as a standard issue seal you guys have. Furthermore, if you guys are sending Naruto to the exams, expect an uphill battle. Fugaku does not believe in the concept of the will of fire and he will play dirty every chance he gets. Noted, Kakashi Nison. They can bring it on if your genin are any indication. Have fun getting the team his weight seals by the way. Oh, I add resistance seals and weight seals together. Been doing it since I was 8. Do you guys wanna see something cool? They both nodded before their chins hit the sand. Naruto had undone his transformation and they were looking at his Hanyu form. Wah, what is that? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck sheepishly. Well, dear old dad made a deal with the Kyuubi that marked me as her future mate. I turned into a Hanyu, a sort of half-demon, even though the word demon doesn't really fit. When I earn my third tail, I will become an eligible mate. She is absolutely beautiful, Kakanai. You are totally going to be jealous of me. Wow, Rudo, that is unreal. Well, needless to say, keep that under wraps in Konoha. That brings up a rumor that Shisui and Itachi have told us about. Evidently, Danzo and Fugaku are going after the biju. They won't try to get Kumo yet, but they have recruited some nasty S-ranked missing nins. Reportedly, Kisame Hoshigaki, Deidara the Mad Bomber, Haiden the Jashinist, Kakuza the Immortal and Sasori of the Red Sands have joined thus far. I believe they will begin moving on the biju soon. Don't know how, don't know why, but I do know that it is bad news. The Kari growled from deep in Naruto's mind. Kushina looked seriously pissed off and Naruto was scowling. Thanks for the heads up, Kakanai. S-rank ninjas, huh? That's crazy. Kushina slapped Naruto on the shoulder. What am I, chopped liver? No, Kachan. You are awesome, I was just trying to measure how much stronger I need to get. I mean, they don't even know that I still have the Kyuubi. Flashback end. Those were the important parts, Raikage Gaisen. I nodded along and couldn't help but shake his head. Naruto, could you ever make anything easy for your uncle? Nope, not really. Not my fault you keep sending me into hellholes and I turn them into allies. You should be praising me for that. Everybody laughed before I dismissed them. He would get a full report from Kushina and they had more than earned their break. He created 4 shadow clones and plowed into his paperwork with renewed vigor, hoping to finish early enough to visit the Maki compound that night. Konoha Council room 3 days after Team 7 and 8 left Wave. Fugaku really hated the headache that council meetings caused him. Unfortunately, this was a really important one and it had to do with Kiri, Wave and Kumo. Fugaku called the chamber to order before asking Kakashi and Kurenai to recount the mission to Wave. The council interrupted multiple times and multiple times they were told to hold all questions to the end. It was as if they didn't know how to write questions down or something. Finally, Kakashi made it to the end of the story and the room was in an uproar. How dare that genin attack our Uchiha clan heir? If he comes for the Chunin exams, we should have him executed. Screamed out the Banshee's mother, Mibuki Haruno. Shikaku Nara, shut that down, could you ever use your inside voice, Counselor Haruno? Do you always have to be so damn troublesome? Anyway, Kakashi-san, you said the Kumo genin were significantly stronger than our own. Could you evaluate them for us please? Kakashi was ready for this and prepared a milquetoast answer. Physically they dwarfed our genin. Probably 3 to 4 times stronger. I would put their skills at mid to high Chunin. They did confirm that there were educational reforms in Kumo, but they wouldn't divulge any more information than that. Well then why should we even let them take the Chunin exams in our village? Asked some nameless civilian. Hiashi Hyuga spoke. We have signed a non-aggression pact with Kumo, according to international law, we must allow them representatives. To turn them away would bring massive shame upon Konoha. Fugaku spoke, Hiashi-san is right. We cannot turn them away. We will try to get in their way a little bit, but there is really nothing that we can do without risking severe international scandal. Inoichi Yamanaka spoke, do our kids stand a chance against them? Kakashi sighed, but Kurenai decided to take this question. If we devote the rest of the time before exams to training, there is a chance. The one that we must watch out for is Rudo. The genin that fought against Zabuza Mamachi as an equal, somehow turned the tide of the Kiri civil war, took down Geto, and bested Sasuke Uchiha with no hands. Yeah, I would say we need to watch out for him. How is he even a genin? Asked Chaoza Akimichi while chuckling wryly. According to Rudo, who was pleasant to talk to by the way, a highly intelligent kid, the Raikage, wants all of his genin to gain field experience under leadership of Jonin. The kid only graduated from Kumo's academy 3 months ago. As strong as the genin are, they are still genin. Kakashi said, easily downplaying Rudo's threat level. Danzo's scowl echoed across the council chamber. It is these divine bolts of Kumo that I am worried about. They are 6 apprentices under the strongest ninjas of Kumo, and they will be coming here. What's worse is that they were in Kiri. Why does that make it worse, Danzo-sama? Asked Shikaku with puppidical eyes. Because we were supporting the bloodline purges to weaken our enemies. If they have proof of that, or the new Mizukage knows about it, things will get bad for Konoha. Have they responded to any envoys or the invitation to the exams? No and yes, they requested time alone in peace to focus on rebuilding. Replied Fugaku. Danzo and the elders seemed pensive before Hiruzen spoke up. So, you are telling me that we were meddling in a foreign civil war, picked the wrong side, picked the side widely considered to be evil, and then to top it all off, the current Mizukage may or may not have proof that we were supporting the toppled regime. Bravo Danzo, and you wondered why I limited your darker urges. There were a couple muffled snorts of laughter from the clan heads, specifically the Inoshikacho squad and Tsum. Danzo scowled deeply and the tension rebuilt in the council room. That is enough, Sarutobi-san. This is no longer your reign as Hokage. We are flexing our power throughout the elemental nations and will establish the Leaf as the #1 hidden village. Respectfully, Hokage, that had been our position since the creation of the village. I would like to point out that our civilian economy has dropped by nearly 2% annually, our border skirmishes are up 40% since you took over. Enough. Bellowed Fugaku, and Hiruzen stood up and walked out of the room. Fugaku fumed at the previous Hokage. Stupid, weak-willed, one-armed fool. Fugaku raged in his mind. The rest of the council meeting devolved into chaos and nothing productive happened. Itachi watched the whole debacle from the shadowed corner of the room and knew that time was running out on the Konoha she once loved. Back in Kumo 1 week after returning from Wave. Teams 12 and 13, better known as the Divine Bolts, reported into Ai's office early in the morning to see all of their masters waiting. The Bolt guards cleared the room at a simple twitch of the finger from the Raikage, and Kushina set up a privacy seal. I started the meeting off. Okay everyone, I wanted to let you kids know how proud I am of you. Between the two squads, you have all set a new bar for elite genin fresh out of the academy. A brief recap, you blew away academy standards, you stood above your peers, and demonstrated the excellence expected of future leadership in Kumo. You fought against 2 unjust tyrants and liberated 2 lands, both of which will become valuable allies in the future. Team 13 recently completed a mission in the land of rice paddies and made such a good impression that the daimyo will be scoping us out at the upcoming Chunin exams. In short, we and the people of Kumo are proud of you. They all bowed to the Raikage and thanked him for investing so much into them. The senseis looked on proudly at their apprentices, but they knew the hard part was yet to come. I continued. In a little over 1 month's time, you will all be going to Konoha for the Chunin exams. To be straightforward, I believe each of you is ready for your Chunin promotions, but I need you all to show up Konoha in these exams and make a statement. Make no mistake, they will do everything they can to put extra obstacles in your way while clearing the way for their own genin. Your status as Divine Bolts paints a sizable target on your backs, so you will watch each other's backs while in Konoha. In addition to the Chunin exams, your extra S-ranked mission is to infiltrate the Uzumaki and Namikaze compounds and recover all things of value and import. Naruto and Kushina were denied their proper inheritance by that corrupt village, and we will get it back for them. The following is an A-rank secret that you will not let leave this room. Orochimaru and the Sand will be launching a punitive invasion of Konoha during the finals. Your extra mission is to use the chaos of this time to infiltrate the Hokage vault located in the Hokage mansion. You will wear special uniforms that will erase your chakra signatures, and they will not tie you to Kumo. If you are compromised during this part of the mission, a failsafe seal will activate and destroy your body. This is an S-rank mission, and I believe you will be able to handle it. Your senseis will accompany hinged shadow clones to the safety bunkers, except for Kushina, who will be there to assist you with any advanced seals that get in your way. You have the next month mission free to train to your heart's content before you set out for Konoha. Naruto, you will be spending 5 days a week with me while the blood clone holds down the paperwork. Questions? No, good. Dismissed. The training throughout the month was even more intense than usual. Naruto spent most days with Ai working on enhancing his lightning armor. He could activate stages 1 and 2, but the final stage still eluded him. Ai told him that it is all about practice. Naruto started each day climbing Deadman's Climb up and down twice with nearly 400 pounds in a rucksack, on top of his current weight and resistant seals. He worked with the Eagle clan during the evenings to master his wind nature chakra and was to the point where he could part the water in his pool with just 2 hands using wind or water chakra natures. He adapted the B-rank jutsu Raiten Thunderclap into the Storm Release variant, which was easily an A-ranked range jutsu. He was working 1 day a week with Derry to master the 2-element Storm Release Laser Circus. Due to the destructive nature of these chakra exercises, Naruto had to use B's training ground. He would leave 200 clones there every morning, and clones would perform the jutsu one at a time and provide real-time feedback to each other to improve the jutsu without wasting so much chakra. Naruto mastered his chakra reinforcement exercises, and he was working on developing new control exercise to maintain his rate of improvement. There were 2 primary reinforcement jutsu that Naruto was working on, his storm chains and his lightning armor. Both exercises were so chakra intensive that he couldn't use shadow clones to speed up training on them. I monitored his use of the lightning armor, while Kushina provided feedback on his storm chains. Naruto's Kenjutsu style was wild. He worked on mastering the style he created with Kushina for his greatsword, dubbed Barbarian's Tide, since incorporated elements of the Whirlpool two-handed style, but it focused more on raw strength and finesse, which suited the 6'2" Hanyu. His mother gave him a new katana from the Yuzu armory after she admonished him for giving an Uzumaki blade to a total stranger. She helped him master the unseen blade style with the katana, which focused on bursts of speed that led into a series of strikes. This style was unique because each sequence began and ended with unsheathing, striking and then sheathing the blade. It was an extremely unpredictable style that capitalized on Naruto's extreme speed. Naruto could easily switch between lightning, wind and water chakra channeling on his blades as well for added versatility. That's enough of the training talk because our boy became a man during this 1-month training intermission. Internally, his bond with Hikari had deepened to the point that he spent every other night with her in the seal after their nightly kitsune training. Both were becoming attached, but they intended to honor the promise of waiting until Naruto got his third tail to enjoy their first time outside of the seal. Hikari maintained the mental link almost constantly to watch her mate at work, which got her all hot and bothered for when he came into the seal at night. Naruto told the magnanimous Kitsune beauty that he loved her a week before he was supposed to leave for Konoha. The Kitsune blushed furiously, waited for Naruto to fall asleep, and then reciprocated his feelings in a whisper. Naruto took Mabui and Samui on several one-on-one and trio dates throughout the month in order to strengthen his bond with the two. The girls agreed to share equally in all things Naruto, and it led to a healthy balance between the trio. An added bonus was enhanced results for their training, as they were kunoichi rivals on the training grounds and practically sister wives in the home. The L word had been thrown around freely between the trio, which led to a date night when Mabui's parents were out of town. The trio went to a sushi dinner at an upscale restaurant before watching the newest Princess Gale movie. The dinner was filled with suggestive looks and light touches while they enjoyed the food. A little bit of sake helped to remove some inhibitions, and the lust grew heavier as they sat cuddled made out throughout the entire movie. They retired to Mabui's house and drank some sake while hanging out in the hot tub. A simple dare led to the two kunoichi making out in the hot tub before dragging Naruto into the bedroom. The girls took charge for the opening part of the sexual act until Naruto's Hanyu blood took over. The poor girls were left in crumpled heaps on the bed after a long night of lovemaking. Even though they were virgins, the Hanyu blood spurred Naruto into multiple rounds with each girl. The next day, every one of the Divine Bolts knew exactly what happened the previous night because Samui and Mabui limped their way to the medical clinic to receive some treatment for back and hip pain. Naruto would have carried them there, but he was already at his morning training with Ai by the time they woke up. The sessions became an almost nightly thing, which really got Hikari's demonic blood pumping. Every now and then, Hikari's moans would escape her control and flow through the mental link as the fiery kitsune relieved some of her pent-up frustrations by watching replays. Hikari became intensely more sexual and used innuendos far more frequently when talking to Naruto, which created a unique dynamic between Hanyu and Kitsune Demon. As the training time drew to a close, everyone's nerves stood on high alert. They all knew the importance and risks involved with their upcoming mission. The threat of a sudden death tends to cause people to open up about their feelings. This led to Atsui confessing to Taiyuya after asking Naruto and Kushina for permission. As a result, Atsui recently started dating Taiyuya. The fiery puns and innuendos flowed freely between members of the DBs, the shortened name the group came up with for the Divine Bolts. Taiyuya also let the group know that she walked in on Killer B and Anko, which had evidently been a thing for almost the past year. That explained why B stopped rapping in front of Anko. Okay, maybe it didn't, but everyone figured that Anko used a liberal number of snakes to threaten the habit out of B. Whatever works, the two lovers seemed to be very happy in each other's company. One unforeseen development was Ai confessing his love for Kushina. The two had worked very closely together over the past 9 years, and they had become a dynamic duo for the sake of Kumo. Nobody could miss the longing glances that Ai cast at the sun-kissed blonde kunoichi or the less frequent parting glances that Kushina gave him. Naruto eventually had enough of it and sat his mother down to talk one night after training. They were relaxing in their onsen while sipping on some sake to spend some quality mother-son bonding time in some place that wasn't the training grounds. The conversation proceeded per the usual status quo until Naruto chucked a wrench in the gears. "Ah-chan, I don't want to upset you, but could I ask you a personal question?" Kushina responded after sipping some sake. "Of course, Sachi, what is it? Do you love Uncle Ai?" Kushina spit out her current sip of sake before reacting in a clearly flustered manner. What makes you say that, Sachi?" Naruto pointed to his nose and then his eyes. "Look, Mom, I am all for it. I realize that it may not be my place, but Dad would want you to be happy. You have honored him, you have been a great mother to me, Taiyuya, Anko and more recently Rias. He wouldn't want you to be alone. I know it isn't quite the same thing, but I believe you can love more than one person at once. If you listen to your heart and find love in Ioji, then I believe Dad would be proud of you in the next life. Hikari-chan did promise to send us to the demonic realm where we could see Dad again, but I don't think he would hold it against you. I guess what I mean to say is that I want you to be happy, Mom. I love you so much that I want that for you. Kushina would remain quiet and reflective for the rest of the night, but that was the night that would lead to a long and happy relationship. With the idea firmly planted, Kushina would talk to Anko, Tayuya and all of her most trusted friends to see what they thought about it. It led to a unanimous decision that eroded her will and in time would become something beautiful. After the month of training was up, all of Kumo gathered at the gates to bid farewell to their divine bolts and wish them luck in the Chunin exams. Massive cheers greeted the summoning of Virginia, which she grew to appreciate. The regal bird of prey strutted around outside the gates and would nestle into the open hands of children. As the DBs mounted Virginia with Derry and Sheena, a deafening roar of cheers chased Virginia as she took off. In the command tower of a Megacur, Hattori Hanzo, better known by his moniker of Hanzo the Salamander, bid farewell to his granddaughter and her genin team. The civil war in AIM ended nearly 20 years ago when he worked with a faction called the Akatsuki to drive Danzo and his route out of AIM. He then worked to secure his nation's borders and bring prosperity to the people of AIM. He was getting old and had planned on handing off the title of Kage of AIM to the man who brought peace to AIM, Yahiko. Hanzo remembered rolling the dice with the Akatsuki faction and taking a leap of faith since both factions wanted to bring peace of AIM and ensure that their nation would no longer be the battlefield for the so-called great nations. It was a sentiment that Hanzo shared and it was his greatest roll of the dice to bring the young trio into the fold and under his wing. He had taken them all on as apprentices after they confronted him and it was then that he learned that they had been taught for 3 years by Jiraiya. Before the genin teams departed, Hanzo called Yahiko, Konan and Nagato to him. You three will lead the 3 most promising teams of AIM genin to the Chunin exams in Konoha. We are all aware that Konoha is stoking the flames of war and I want you to send a clear message that this will not be tolerated. Ensure there is no foul play and have faith in the training we provided to our teams. There will be teams from Kumo, Sand, Taki, Kusa, Odo and Konoha there. I have heard great things about the Kumo team and I would like you to attempt to start a positive relationship with them. Provide these instructions to your genin teams as well. I believe the time for Konoha to fall rapidly approaches and it will be Kumo that assumes the leadership mantle. Do not tell your genin to pull punches, but fight with honor and leave a good impression. Yahiko, my daughter is in your care and I expect you to look out for her. No mere genin will best her, so be on guard for foul play. That is all, you are dismissed and I will see you in the finals. The 3 shinobi bowed to their leader, knowing that he did not require a response to such simple instructions. They all locked eyes before gathering their teams and beginning the 3-day trek to Konoha. Konoha 3 days before the start of the Chunin exams. Fugaku called his daughter and nephew Shisui to his desk to assign an important task to the pair. They knelt in front of him, 2 of the most powerful Uchiha and the 2 most powerful Konoha shinobi. Raise your heads, I have a task for you too. You are to shadow the Kumo teams and their Jonin sensei. I want detailed reports of their strengths, dispositions and potential weaknesses by the time the Chunin exams start. These divine bolts threaten Konoha's future supremacy and I want to look for a way to effectively deal with them. At this point, see if they would be open to the idea of marriage contracts. It seemed like Sasumi was interested in the one named Ruto. I believe you need no further instruction. The 2 disappeared in various shunins and awaited the arrival of the Kumo teams at the front gates. Hawk, better known as Shisui, decided to keep the conversation lively with Itachi as they waited. You think he knows or suspects anything? My father was never good at containing his rage, so no. I will use this opportunity to ensure that my mother and sister can be saved. If we can find a way out, that would be good too. Itachi replied in a feminine monotone. Are you sure you just don't miss your Naruto-kun? Shisui was always good at pushing Itachi's buttons. Funny, Shisui, very funny. Although I will admit that Naruto would be preferable to that stick-in-the-mud Hyuga that I am engaged to marry. Kami, I pray he doesn't make Chunin. Itachi replied. Weren't his Ashi and Niji offered refuge by Kumo? No, it was determined that they were too high risk. Hitomi and Hanabi did receive the offer though, and after Hitomi meets with Kushina, I am sure she will join in the exodus. She was infuriated when the elders branded Hanabi. Hinata is up in the air. Itachi answered Shisui's 20 questions with a slow-growing hint of agitation. Who else? I tried talking to the Nara, but they are too lazy to commit since it all hasn't gone to shit yet. Any further conversation was halted by a massive bird that was landing 200 meters outside the front gates of Konoha. Everyone stopped at what they were doing and gawked at the foreign bird. They noticed 8 shinobi dressed in Kumo gear, all wearing phasimisks denoting them as divine bolts, approached the gates. Izumo and Katetsu were known around Konoha by 2 titles. The Immortal Chunin or the Eternal Gate Guards. On most days, they bitch and moan about how boring their duty is, while they take turns sleeping on duty. Today was not such a day. First they dealt with the Suna convoy that brought in 4 teams from Suna. The bloodthirsty Redeed scared the sleepiness 2 Chunins and scared them bad enough. Now, a massive bird that looks like it could pick up a small house in each talon lands in front of their gates, and the Kumo shinobi showed up. Yeesh. For the flashy entrance, the Kumo contingent was fairly quiet as their Jonin sensei processed their entry into Konoha. The 2 gate guards notified them that the Hokage wished to speak with them. Derry took point with his mask on because he knew how tense Shina was to be back in Konoha. Even a mediocre sensor could detect the 10 Anbu guards that were tailing them as they walked to the Hokage tower. Shina kept glancing back at Ruto to make sure he was coping with being back in Konoha, and of course Mabui and Samui had the comforting task covered. Ruto was gritting his teeth under his mask as he took in the once familiar sights of Konoha. Sure, he was young when it all happened, but he had a great memory and he clearly remembered his treatment as a child. It was a lively city and it was touted as the #1 village. Ruto admitted that it had a much more prevalent civilian presence and it was lively enough. The Uchiha fans everywhere did rub him the wrong way though. His unease was nothing that repeatedly palming the hilt of his katana couldn't diffuse, and his girls really helped to calm him down too. Eventually, the long walk to the Hokage tower was completed and now he had to sit through a conversation with the Hokage. The group was allowed to enter the Hokage office shortly after their arrival, and Derry once again took point. Greetings, Hokage Dono, thank you for inviting us into your beautiful city to partake in the Chunin exams. We thank you in advance for your hospitality. I am Derry, Jonin Sensei of Team 12, and this is Lady Shina, Jonin Sensei of Team 13. Fugaku looked over the group. Ah, I finally get to meet the divine bolts of Kumo. I have heard much about you. Tell me, would I be imposing too much to ask you to drop your masks? Derry was ready for this and responded coolly. As you said, we have garnered quite the name for ourselves. The masks are to protect our identities, and we are under orders from the Raikage not to remove them in public. We do beg your pardon for this. Fugaku suppressed a snarl and kept his diplomacy face on. Very well, Derry-san, could you tell me if your Raikage would be open to further developing the relationship between our 2 villages? I have been given limited authority to discuss such things. We intended to maintain the non-aggression pact with Konoha, we have both appreciated the reduced friction on the border. I have been told that any and all treaty talks are welcome for discussion at the Chunin exam finals. Fugaku smiled, which sent a shudder down Shina's spine. Very good, very good. You are that confident that one of your genin will make it to the finals. Aries' posture indicated that he was smirking confidently. Only time will tell, Hokage Dono. Fugaku had to respect Kumo's game. A friendly and diplomatic envoy that truly played the game well. Indeed, Derry-san. Do indulge this old man's curiosity, but could you tell me what kind of summon transported you here? It was the Eagle clan summons that Kumo recently acquired. That is it, Derry, keep it short, sweet and polite. Most interesting. I have never seen a bird of that nature. Okay, well you have been given 3 rooms at Konoha's prestigious Golden Leaf Hotel for the duration of your stay. In hopes of developing diplomatic ties, Konoha's council has footed the bill. Please enjoy your stay in Konoha and be sure to follow the rules laid out for you. The Chunin exams will commence at the academy 3 days from now. The Kumo contingent swallowed their pride and bowed to the Hokage. They left the tower without another word, or so the Anbu thought. Kushina had installed communication seals on the masks that allowed the DBs to communicate with one another. Man, that guy had such a massive stick shoved up his ass that I could see the funking thing poking out from his shit-stained throat every time the Motherfinker talked. Of course, it was Taiyuya that summarized the meeting with the Hokage. He certainly left me wanting in the communication department. Okay team, we are in mission mode. Remember not to give away any unnecessary information, always stick together and never wander far from public places. We are to remain on the down low for the first part of the exams, so Ruto, for the love of Kami, just don't. Ha-chan. What's that supposed to mean? Samui's giggles echoed through the masks. It means that trouble loves you, Ruto-kun. So, for now, do everything in your power to avoid finding trouble. Why does everybody pick on me? Ruto's fake dejected tone earned a round of laughter. Because you are you, shithead. That should be all the explanation you need. Amoy chimed in, she is right, Ruto-san. What other genin teams get dragged into a war and then immediately follow that up with freeing a nation from a tyrant? That is Ioji's fault. He sent me on those troublesome missions. Somewhere in Konoha, a pineapple-haired boy sneezed on his blonde friend, which earned him a bonk on the head that resulted in him lying on his back and looking at the clouds. The group made their way to the hotel and decided to pack it in for the night. A Fuinjutsu sweep of their hotel suite sent a high-frequency transmission through a total of 9 listening seals and caused 9 root shinobi to suddenly collapse while bleeding from their ears. Protection barriers, privacy barriers and many reinforcement seals were placed upon the hotel rooms. Konoha was not to be trusted, after all. Team 12 and Team 13 decided to bunk with their own teams, while the Jonin sensei shared the room in between. Samui and Mabui instantly remodeled the room by pushing the separate queen beds together. Kushina set up a noise barrier around Amoi's bed to ensure that he got decent sleep, and then the whole Kumo contingent passed out after eating a pre-sealed dinner. The next day the Kumo contingent was guided to 2 joint training grounds that they could use for the duration of their stay in Konoha. Once again, Rude and Anbu's efforts were foiled by privacy barrier seals that were keyed to only DB members' chakra signatures. Anzo was pulling his hair out at how hard it was to gather intelligence on the Kumo team, but they were entitled by international law to defend their training ground however they saw fit. The squads did a light workout followed by calisthenics and meditation before they walked into Konoha to find a good breakfast spot. The Kumo teams were walking through Konoha after breakfast and they bumped into Konoha teams 8 and 10. Kiba opened up with a greeting that caused the 4 squads to stop and greet one another. "Hey. It's you guys. Hey, these are the guys I was telling you about in the wave mission." The pretty but dainty-looking blonde cast a keen eye over the masked faces of the Kumo shinobi. "That's no fun. I wanted to see Mr. Tall, Blonde and Handsome's face. So, what's with the masks?" Rudo shrugged, his massive shoulder muscles rippled under his uniform and caused his slick to slide up just enough to give Ino a glimpse of his abdomen. "You get used to them. Plus, they are a great icebreaker. So, what is there to do around here?" Ino threw on her best flirt, which caused posturing from Mabui and Samui. "Oh, this and that. What do you say to joining us for an early lunch?" "Thank you for the offer, Ino-san, but we just ate. I suppose we will see you for the Chunin exams?" Rudo countered. Kiba puffed out his chest. "You bet you will. I have been grinding with Akamaru here and I think I could show you who the true alpha is now. Kiba-san, it is my duty to inform you as your teammate that should you encounter Rudo-san on the field of battle, your best course of action would be to flee. My Kakechu are extremely wary of him and pretty much everyone from Kumo." Shino's monotone nailed the delivery and made everyone laugh. The Hyuga girl with wide eyes blushed, touched her pointer fingers together repeatedly and then stammered out. "It was pretty awesome what you did for Wave." With an inaudible eep the girl receded into her jacket. Ino beat an eyebrow at Hinata. "Damn, Hinata, it has been years since I heard you stutter like that. So, you like Rudo-kun as well?" The poor Hyuga girl forgot all of her rigorous past family training as her face invented new and more vibrant shades of red. Rudo decided to have mercy on the poor girl and simply said goodbye on behalf of the Kumo contingent. As they walked away, the Konoha teams resumed their conversation. "Troublesome, that big guy is a genin. Team, if we encounter him in any fight, we run. It would be far too troublesome to fight somebody like that." "Dude, don't be a beep. Sure, he beat Sasuke with no hands, but we haven't been training hard for nothing." Kiba's loud voice managed to reach the receding Kumo teams and made them break out into fits of laughter. "Quiet down, dog breath. I don't know about fighting him, but I would love to see more of him. OMG, he was so hot." Ino squealed in a fangirl fashion. "Hami, you are such a troublesome woman, Ino." Meanwhile, the Kumo team was walking back to the Golden Leaf Hotel and laughing at the genin. Tayuya and Atsui were going back and forth, throwing comical insults around about the Konoha genin and giving Rudo shit for being the one the girls always lock onto. Samui and Mabui both defended Rudo, saying that it wasn't his fault that Kami and Hikari gave him such a perfect body. Naruto then took a shot at Amoi, saying that it wouldn't be so bad if the other guys in the group pulled their own weight. Everyone was laughing in their masks, externally only a shaking of their shoulders was seen. That is when they noticed 3 teams from what must have been a megacur, since they were wearing thick rain ponchos and rebreather masks, which weren't really needed in Konoha. Nagato was checking his team into the Golden Leaf when he sensed immensely powerful chakra signatures approaching, and he felt like he should recognize one of them. He turned around and locked onto the biggest man in the group, hell he was by far the biggest man in the room. Before Nagato could extend a proper greeting to Kumo squads, Amai Hattori, Hanzo's daughter, walked right up to the squads. Even though she was wearing a mask and rebreather that slightly distorted her voice, everyone could tell that she carried a potent femininity. "Hey there, I am Amai Hattori, and my father told me that I should take some time to get to know you guys. He said that you have left quite the impression on the shinobi world already." Naruto waited for someone to speak, but all 5 of his friends simply looked at him to see how he would address the situation. He sighed internally and bitched to Hikari that it always had to be him. Am I Hattori, daughter of the salamander? It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Rudomaki, these are Samui, Mabui, Atsui, Tayuya and Amoy. Naruto's gruff voice sent shivers down Amai's spine. Well, these 8 are all members of wandering clans that joined AIM. Hinji, Hachi, Greedo, Marika, Toto, Sal, Quivi and Sam. Would you guys like to join us for lunch? We actually just ate, but since you asked so nicely, how about we meet down here at 5 PM to go grab some dinner? Before that, Rudo-san, how about a trade? I take my mask off if you take yours. Haha, well Ms. Amai, my girlfriends don't seem to like that idea. Maybe if you can best me in the Chunin exams though. Oh, aren't you a spoilsport? Well, challenge accepted and we will see you at 5. After the quick back and forth, the Kumo teams made their way back to Team 12's room and sat inside to catch their breaths and remove their masks. Holy funkin' shit, everyone is gunning for us. And those kami damned Anbu won't leave us alone. Their chakra signatures are so funking obvious that it gives me the chills. Tayuya complained as she threw herself on the 3 beds. It is uncomfortable. If we make one mistake, then the Leaf will use it as an excuse to arrest us. If we get arrested, we will be tortured for information, and Kumo will declare war on the Leaf. That will lead 3 fists impacted the top of Amoy's head. He looked up to see Samui, Tayuya and Mabui glaring at him. Sorry, I can't help it sometimes. Atsui sat down next to Amoy and threw an arm around his shoulder. It's alright, my fiery little brother. We still love you. Look guys, we knew we would be walking around with bullseyes on our backs. I am sorry that you are all wearing masks to help me cover up my identity. Naruto said sullenly. Samui and Mabui each took a hand apiece and pulled Naruto onto the bed. You're worth it, Naruto-kun. We all love you and would do anything for you. Yeah, my not-so-little shit-headed brother, what she said. Tayuya's smirk covered her entire face. Thanks, Wani-chan. That means a lot coming from my foul-mouthed older sister, who happens to be almost a whole foot shorter than me. Naruto countered sarcastically. Tayuya balled her fist and shook it at Naruto. The group continued to enjoy the opportunity to let their guards down until it was almost time for dinner. They masked up, collected Kushina and Dari, then went to meet the AIM teams for dinner. When Nagato walked up, Shina recognized the Uzumaki part of his chakra signature almost immediately. She pulled him into a conference room for 10 minutes and came back out and nodded to Rudo and flashed him hand signs for 50. Seemed like the Uzumaki clan would bring Kumo another strong ally, which meant that Rudo really needed to play nice. Rudo noticed that the AIM senseis talked briefly. Rudo saw a widening of the blue-haired female's eyes and a big smile and a slap on the back from the orange-haired one. They walked their squads to the Akimichi BBQ restaurant and the group sat down at a big table in the back. Rudo noticed that something was wrong right away. The waiter was nervous, the restaurant staff were nervous, and too many Konoha shinobi walked in after them and sat down. In his mask, he warned his teammates and senseis. Shina then threw up a privacy barrier and instructed the AIM team not to eat or drink anything. Shina instructed Rudo to drink some of the water and sure enough it was tainted with some form of slow-acting chakra-suppressing poison. Not enough to be detectable to most people, but enough that it would slow them down for the next week or so. Needless to say, the massive group stood up and left the restaurant without ordering any food. Naruto opened the communication seal in his mask and spoke out loud. Let the games begin. After the poisoning attempt, the Kumo group only ate food that they had prepared. Mabui set up an instant transmission seal in their room and sent a letter to Ai, requesting that he should send some more food along. The instant transmission was Mabui's Fuinjutsu idea for sending items over long distances. She did the theory work, and then Naruto and Kushina helped her round out the Fuinjutsu, which became an invaluable asset to Kumo. It allowed for instant transmission between a sending and receiving seal array. Naturally, the receiving seal array was managed by Carrie since she was Ai's secretary. When Ai received the message in his office, he broke his desk and punched out the wall that overlooked Kumo. Carrie sighed as she sent a request for urgent repairs, again, to the maintenance crew. The group waited for Ai's reply, joking about how Carrie was probably nagging him for breaking his desk again. After 10 minutes, a sealing scroll and a letter materialized on the receiving seal. Naruto opened the letter and read it to his friends. He tossed the sealing scroll onto the table, knowing that it probably contained food and water. Bolts. Gloves off, no more MR. Nice guy. Stick it to Konoha and send a message that we will not roll over. I will handle any fallout. If you get the opportunity to, kill Konoha teams quietly. If in sanctioned fight, cripple or kill, whichever hurts Konoha more. It is good to hear about the AIM team with the Uzumaki. Try to make friends with Hanzo's daughter. Say hi to Shina for me. Ai. The 6 teenagers lay down next to each other on the 3 bedspread and looked up at the ceiling. Anyone that doesn't want to kill, I understand. This is my grudge, not yours. Naruto's voice sounded way softer than normal. Samui and Mabui snuggled up to him to provide reassurance. Atsui thrust a fire-covered fist into the air. Ruto, you are my brother in all but blood, and it is only a matter of time until you're officially family. He paused here to let his perverted tone agitate his sister. We are with you to the end, brother. You may not be dating my sister, although if I had one, I am sure you would be, but I feel the same as Atsui. Amoy's ribbing drew giggles from the others. You know where I stand, shithead. Thanks guys, you are all family to me. Naruto concluded. The group passed out on the bed. When Kushina came in to say lights out, she smiled and resealed the door. Let the kids be kids for a while. The next day they chose to go straight to their training grounds, do more light workouts, stretching and team formation drills, and they retired to their rooms. They didn't feel like dealing with their Konoha watchers or the troublesome genin teams running around the village. They went to bed early after packing up their sealing scrolls in preparation for the exams. That night, Fugaku called Shisui and Itachi to report in. The two appeared kneeling in front of him, and Itachi began her report. Kumo teams have remained locked down tight after the incident at the Akimichi restaurant. The big one, Ruto I believe, drank a single sip of the chakra-dampening water before the entire group and the AIM teams left the restaurant without ordering. They do about 4 hours of morning workouts before spending their remaining time in their rooms. The rooms are sealed up tight with multiple layers of protective seals. They destroyed the bugs on the first night and sent the root shinobi listening in to the hospital. All indications point to a high level of proficiency with sealing. The teams never talk to each other in public. Aburami bugs are killed before they can report in, and all attempts to gather further information have been foiled. They are highly trained and extremely dangerous. Ruto is clearly the leader of both teams. I would safely surmise that he is the alpha of the younger generation in Kumo. My Sharingan showed that their uniforms are covered in some sort of chakra suppression seal, which makes it impossible to detect and lock on to his chakra signature. The hair is the only real distinguishing feature aside from his size, which the Jonin sensei and the one named Tayuya share. According to their IDs, they belong to the Maki clan. There is no further information at this time. Fugaku sighed loudly, frustrated by the complete lack of information. They knew about the attempts to weaken them and spy on them, but the senseis haven't filed a complaint, so that says they came ready to deal with the adversity. Do you think direct interference during the second exam would be successful? Fugaku asked with a straight face. Shisui shook his head in the negative. I believe it would have an extremely high chance of backfiring. We have not seen what they are capable of, and if you send assassin teams in, I will find out. I believe the best course of action to be accepting them. Play nice with Kumo, who is rising on the world stage. Secure a new ally rather than provoke them further into becoming an enemy. I agree with Shisui, father. They can detect us when we are following them. They use chakra pulses in regular intervals, and I have not found a way to hide from them. Fugaku slammed a hand on his desk. This is our opportunity to demonstrate the might of Konoha, and you two are telling me that I should accept Kumo upstaging us. The two bowed before Itachi spoke up. Father, I simply believe that the risks do not justify the potential gain. We will likely have a preliminary round, we can find unfavorable matchups or other ways to reduce their chances of making it to the finals. I believe if we try underhanded tactics, they are ready to counter them and turn them against us. Leave me. Return to your posts. Fugaku shouted and the two disappeared from the room. Danzo appeared out of the shadows in the corner of the room. I reluctantly agree with them. My operatives have come to the same conclusion. I suggest we attempt seduction rather than antagonization. We need to get our hands on their training methods and access to their seals. A marriage treaty would help us secure that. It must be the Maki clan that is the might of Kumo. So, couldn't we kidnap the Maki heir and demand those things in order for his safe return? Danzo scoffed. Fugaku, those are not your typical genin. They confidently marched into enemy territory and they were ready for our games. The chakra suppression seals have stopped our best sensor shinobi from gathering more information. I wouldn't be surprised if they are each high Chunin to Jonin level. I will say it again, I agree with Itachi's recommendation. Rather than antagonizing them further and risking international backlash, find a way to take advantage of their strength. Very well, you counsel is well received, Danzo. We will monitor them throughout the exams and find a way to one of the 3 Makas. Now, what about Suna's Jinchuriki being here? The plans to capture him upon his return to Suna are in place. I have squads that will ambush him in the land of rivers and they will support Madara. We will have the first biju after the Chunin exams. That is all well and good, Danzo, but why did Suna send their bloodthirsty Jinchuriki to my Chunin Xmas? To make a statement to their daimyo. We have successfully stolen over half of the missions that would typically go to Suna. They are weak right now and want to use the boy to look strong. Very well. He is to remain on watch for the duration of his stay. That boy's chakra is foul and he is tainted by his biju. Fugaku said sternly. As you wish, Fugaku. It will be done. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.